It's 6:50 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
Hey, what time is that in Indonesia again?
I think we're 2 hours ahead of being behind or something. Not sure, but we never change.
Isn't there a place in Washington or Canada that's like 2 hours and 12 minutes different? You know about that place? Where they're not a clean
No,
hour, 2 hours. They like literally have this like minutes thing going on. Or maybe
that's
it's
foolish.
Canada or Washington, but rollers. We're doing a roller show today. And Chris, you're the roller guy here. You're the one with all the rollers and fun birds to watch and
I
stuff.
don't have all the rollers. I have a few that are very nice.
A few. How many rollers do you have right now? Because I think a few means 3.
40, 60, 50, probably 50. Let's call it 50.
50 rollers. Out of those 50
Maybe.
rollers, how are you breaking your kits up? Is it one kit of 50? 2 kits, 25?
No. Well, so I have a breeding loft with like 6 or 7 pair in there. So that's 12 or 14 of them. And then I've got 2 special pair in the house here, right next to me. I might show you if you're lucky.
Are these the champion breeder birds from the VFRC?
No, sir. Those actually reside at Joe Cook's house.
Oh, okay. Are these the birds are these the weaver birds?
Yeah, it's 2 pair of weavers in here.
Okay.
That I keep in here. They're prettiest. They were given to me. They're actually hand-me-down breeders. There was some really, really nice birds. That's what.
There you go. So, when you're flying your birds and you're flying your kit, I don't know, like the last time I was over there and I watched your birds fly, I don't know if I told you this, I actually wrote down a score. Do you keep score of your birds?
Score.
Yeah, do you keep score of your birds?
No.
When they're flying, you don't even imagine what they could be getting on them numbers and watching the breaks. And
I couldn't begin to tell you. I really couldn't begin to tell you, and that's why it's cool that we got this guy coming on.
Yeah.
Because I got so many questions.
It's cool. So
Yeah.
when my son was flying his rollers, I'd look at the on Facebook. People would always be like, "Hey, check it out! You know, I just flew competitively. Here's the scorecard that I got." And it shows what the judge is looking at. It shows notes from the judge. It shows what he was, scoring on how many were dropping and stuff like that. And so using those scorecards, I'll take a screenshot of it and just kind of look at the scorecards and, watch birds fly and try to do it. But that's crazy, man. Like we were talking earlier, it's when you're flying, 20 birds and you see 6 or 8 birds just drop. Did they all drop together? I don't think I was paying attention close enough. Was there a second in between, or was there 2 seconds? Was that a waterfall? Was that a legit point scoring drop? And you got to have some keen eyes.
Well, one thing is it's all subjective. So, I mean, it should be pretty straight across the board, but you're going to see it differently than I do, I guarantee you.
I might be scoring in the hundreds and you're scoring in the thousands, probably, is what you're saying?
No. I'm very critical. So I'd be like, meh, I don't know. I don't think it was. Not quite sure. When in doubt, I'm getting 50 points.
Well, at least you're not DQing yourself every time you fly. That's good. Don't beat yourself up too bad, man.
Oh, I could do that too. That's pretty easy to do. These birds are finicky sometimes. You get an outbird. See, and I'm flying a small kit, man. So I'm just starting out. I don't have all these tons and tons of birds. I just got what I got.
Working generations of families and stuff like that. I mean,
well, it's been pretty hard because I do believe in selecting. We'll call it selecting underachievers and removing them from the bunch. And it's hard because you're dealing with 15 to 20 birds and you got to be able to pick that one out of the air. So I got one that I've spray painted 3 different colors.
What's the color?
Finally, huh?
What's the color
Well,
of shame over there?
so first it was green, and I spray painted 3 birds' tails green, and I let them go because that one was sitting on a pole. I was like, okay, well, I'll spray paint them the color of the leg band, and we'll figure it out. Well, I just so happen to have 2 red birds with green tails. They're actually all red. One's an ash red. So I'm like, okay. Get up there, look at him. Oh yeah, yeah. It's got green with white flights. I can see it here. It's red, green, white flights. All right, remember that. So I pull that bird out. So I thought. 2 days, everything's good the next day. 2 days later, here's a bird sitting on the pole. Get up my binoculars. It's red, green, and white. Damn it, got the wrong bird. So now that bird has a red, green, and blue tail. So that I've been marking every time.
That's not gonna get confusing.
It happened to be three red birds that I was dealing with. So, and now with the young birds, I've got they're all like self colors, like dark check and stuff, and they're hard to tell apart. They're not like red and white birds, or grizzles and stuff like that. You can't tell them apart in the air. So you got a bunch of dark colored crows flying around. You got to figure that out. So Alan was nice enough to give me a can of white spray, but it's all temporary hair color. The stuff you get at Halloween time.
Okay.
So it's kind of seasonal, when you get it. But that's how I've been having to pick out my birds, because I couldn't figure out which one was sitting on the pole, and it was so annoying.
Someone's gonna be out there trying to trap your birds, thinking it's those rare rainbow pigeons, man.
Right? Oh yeah, man. This thing is worth thousands.
Those colors are totally not natural.
I should take them. I could take them to a sale.
So we got Sam Smitty Smith coming on here. Smitty started raising pigeons when he was 9 years old and has never stopped. He's raised many breeds of fancy pigeons and has flown competition with the ICRC, the Inner City Roller Club. He is the founder of the VFRC, the Velocity First Roller Club, with chapters in Phoenix and California. Through his YouTube channel, The Roller Pigeon Evolution, Smitty helps the proliferation of roller hobby and pigeons in general. His episodes focus on education, breeding, genetics, and the cultivation of the performing roller for extreme velocity. He has judged countless pigeon flying performances, as well as cage lawn shows. Hey, Smitty, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for coming out today.
My pleasure.
So first off, wanted to say this was actually brought up by Austin Hermanson. He was asking us to bring on a roller judge, and we've talked to a couple of different fancy breed judges and stuff before.
Right.
And I guess we'll get into that first. We'll kind of ease into the judging of performance. But first off, you also judge the lawn shows.
Yeah, I judged quite a few lawn shows.
When it comes, we're reading the old American Pigeon Journal, people talking about, you shouldn't be showing these birds. These are performing birds. And, what happens to some breeds when you show them, they lose the abilities. There's a lot of tumblers that don't even tumble anymore, and so on and so forth. But when it does come to judging, this is a performance bird. What are you looking for? Are you looking for performance features, or are there kind of standard features that you're looking for in these roller pigeons when you're looking at them at the lawn shows?
So just to be clear, you have performance rollers and you have show rollers. And the standard for show rollers is completely different. When we look at performance rollers in a show context, what we're looking for is birds that display all the attributes that we look for in a performance bird. And a lot of those attributes, and just to give you a couple, I don't know if you've ever heard people talk about an apple body. Okay, so in a performance roller, a roller with an apple body is a bird that's built, his build is conducive to high velocity roll. So we look for a bird his body mass is in the center. His head tends to be a little cocked back, his tail, and everything lines up perfectly. When we look at the body type, we're looking for a body type that is kind of like a Nike symbol. He's got a very deep keel in the front, and it's got a very, very rapid up pitch to the vent portion of the bird. So those are just some of the features we look for. We look for good feather quality. We look for good eye sign, so clarity of eye. We look for, there's a host of things, but yeah, it's a completely different criteria than, say, a standard show roller.
And you're not, because when I was at the Utah show, they had these birds there that were show rollers that didn't look anything like the Birmingham roller. You're actually talking about a Birmingham roller show bird.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what it is, it's a dual purpose bird. And I think it really came out of the fact that a lot of guys that raise performance rollers, they still love beautiful birds, and they like a bird with a beautiful type and that has great expression. So that's really where it came out of, these lawn shows. And guys literally, I know quite a few guys that breed birds that are beautiful birds. And in the air, I mean, you have amazing performance. So it's kind of morphed into a dual purpose bird. If you go back to the original birds, the birds that Bill Pensum imported, yeah, they were ugly birds, dude. They were long cast, long necked, high station birds. And the birds that have been crafted today, it's a completely different bird. It's a thing of beauty. Whereas, I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but the birds that we've made today are completely different. They're very, very, very finesse birds, as I would call them.
That's why I like my rollers, because there's so many beautiful colors and variations.
Oh, yeah.
I've got two different families, and the one guy breeds for a nice little small head. The other ones have big fat heads.
Yeah. It's really a matter of choice. But I think something that I've seen over all the years that I've been breeding birds, it's coming to a, how should I say, a choke point. When you look at what used to be out there and what's out there today, the type is coming closer and closer together, what people are breeding for, especially in the roller hockey. I see. You don't see too many guys breeding those long cast, high station, long neck birds anymore, because what you find, those birds, not that those birds don't roll and they don't roll with velocity, but it's a lot easier for a smaller bird to generate that high velocity bird or roll than it is for a larger bird to do it, you know? I mean, it's kind of like you see Sha'Carri Richardson run and you see Shaquille O'Neal run. Yeah, they're both athletes, but she does it a little different, you know what I'm saying? So
absolutely. So we got a question here from Jeff Meyer. He says, Sam, do you believe in rocking the team down in condition, then building them up for 3 or 4 days before you competitively fly?
I do, but it's going to depend on family, because you have some families that, I mean, to give you an example, there's a gentleman that I started, what should I say, that I got my start from. One of my mentors is a guy by the name of Dennis Goddard. And Dennis Goddard came from Oregon. He was a student of Leonard Cahut. For the roller fanciers that are out there that are aware of a family called White Heat, Leonard Cahut was the originator of the White Heat family. He bred the original White Heat hen, and it's proliferated throughout the United States. A lot of roller guys know what White Heat is. Jerry Higgins had White Heat. So many fanciers still do. But my point is, that particular family of birds, if you broke those birds down, they didn't perform well. Dennis Goddard's birds, he never broke those birds down at all. It was that family. Now, if you go to, say, a Jerry Higgins family, a lot of those birds, if you break them down too much, they crash on you. So it's really gonna depend on what family of birds that you have, and your results are gonna differ from family to family. I know guys that break their birds down. Rayvon Hall, perfect example, a great competitor. And he broke his birds down with great success. I've seen other guys break families down that have never been broken down before, and the birds go flat and they end up with goose egg. So it really is going to depend on what family you're breeding.
I fly two different families. I have Turners and I have Allen Weavers.
Okay. So, and this is a guess. I would say you could probably break down the Weaver. The Turner you probably couldn't. You know?
Nope.
Because the Allen Weaver
Turners
are a Higgins-based family. They're a Higgins-Mason, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. I have Higgins birds too. My kid is Turner, and weavers, and it's gonna be all weavers here pretty quick.
Yeah. The Turner birds, at least the ones that I've seen, great speed. If you don't watch them, they tend to be a little on the deep side. Turner loved it, and I've had many conversations with Turner. I mean, he's definitely somebody I look up to in the roller world because of his experience with color and genetics, because that's my passion right there. I love the genetic side of pigeons. I breed stencils, I breed lace, I breed opals, you name it. I produce every color on the map. James is one of the people that I've talked to in pursuit of that. And he's a brilliant guy.
Yeah, heavy opal in them Turner birds.
Yeah. And you got to be really careful with opal, because you have recessive opal and you have dominant opal. And a lot of people will look at a bird and say, oh, this is what that bird's color is. That's not his color at all. What it is, it's opal that's affecting the color. So it's not the bird's color that you see. It's another color. Right. It's a color that's actually affecting. It's like putting on sunglasses, saying that's green. No, the sunglasses are green. That's a blue. So you have to be really careful when you look at colors that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I got a couple of bronze, opal. Mm-hmm. There's some wild colors that have come out of them for sure.
Right. It's funny. One thing that I totally stumped me. I don't know if you've ever dealt with stencil.
Lace in my satinets. Not
okay. So lace.
I don't have any stencil birds.
Yeah. Stencil does this weird thing. So if you have homozygous stencil, whereas the parents are both stencil, right? If you have homozygous stencil, what happens? They'll produce you stencils. But if you cross one of those stencils, so the offspring are going to be heterozygous. They're half-breed, right?
Right.
Well, they will produce what looks like, say, in a blue check or T pattern, right? They'll produce you a bird that is, the body is all blue check, but the wing butts are completely what we would call bronze or recessive red bleeding through. It's not recessive red and it's not bronze. It's called stencil bronze. But what it is, it's a heterozygous showing of stencil. And so many people look at it and they're like, oh, that's a beautiful bronze. There's nothing to do with bronze. But
then you throw two of those together and you get bronze?
No, you put two of those together. So with stencil, you have to have
stencil. Two of those, you get stencil, rather.
Possibly. And the reason I say possibly, because sometimes what happens, they don't have all three genes in order to make a stencil that shows. The genes have to line up perfectly. And if they don't, guess what? A bird, even though you have a heterozygous on one side and a heterozygous on the other side, you put them together, the babies, the offspring, may only have two of the genes. So it'll show up as a stencil bronze again. Or sometimes it doesn't show up at all. Stencil is one of those weird genes. Unless they line up perfectly, you will not get a stencil. But I love that gene. I mean, it's one of my favorites.
No, the satinets, all of my hens are brown.
Okay.
They have, so I have to breed them to a black lace cock.
Right.
Or they dilute too bad. You lose the lace.
So are you familiar with what they call STIP, the stipper gene?
I'm not. I've heard of it.
It looks like almond, but it's not almond. And it's based in brown, like you were saying. But when the birds are born, they look like grizzles. And then they molt as they get older. So usually their first year, they literally transform into a completely different pigeon. And it's a brown base with black splotches and white splotches on it. Beautiful, beautiful birds. But people look at them and they say, oh, that's an almond. And you look at it, you're like, wait, why is it brown? The base of it, it's as if you took a brown pigeon and they just started putting black and white splotches on it. I mean, beautiful, beautiful birds. Yeah, but you cross it to a black, they produce you browns and they produce you what they call stips or stippers. Beautiful. So just one of the weird colors I'm messing with. There's a guy named Jared Murray that I got the original cock from. I crossed it to a black, produced more, crossed it to a brown, produced more of those, but beautiful, beautiful color. Great roll too from his birds.
So we got another question here in line with that. So Pete Robinson said, he asked you on your YouTube channel if, he said, I asked if they were dominant or recessive opal, as he had mentioned the use of carriers, meaning they were recessive then. I think he explained how he breeds them as if they were dominant. I know how both genes work, but rather confused me. So
my birds carry both dominant and recessive opal. They're both. They're not one or. Because I have some of my birds that will show the tail band, that's dominant opal. And then you have other birds that have no tail band. It's recessive. And what happens with a dominant opal, you need one bird and you can literally proliferate those birds at will with just one. Okay. With recessive opal, you can literally breed them and it'll disappear on you. And you'll produce just checks or bars and there's no opal there. And it pops up on its own. That's recessive opal. It is a recessive gene. So my birds have both because at the time I started making the opal family, I didn't know there was a difference between dominant and recessive opal. So I was crossing opals into opals and they were both. So sorry for the confusion. But yeah, my birds have both dominant and recessive.
Okay. Mick McConville's asking, how do you prepare your pigeons for competition? How often are they flown? And what do you feed them during this time?
I usually feed a 12%. You try to keep the corn out of it. What do you got there? I was looking at the bird. He's got a bird in his hand. A nice little black model. Beautiful. Bald head. Yeah, that's nice. That is very nice. I love models too. So, preparing your birds for competition. Again, depending on what family you have, it's really going to make a difference on how your birds, you're breaking them down. Say 5 days before competition, 5 to 7 days, you want to start breaking those birds down. When I say breaking them down, it's cutting their food, cutting their protein intake, cutting their carb intake, okay? So carbohydrates obviously are going to give them quick energy, whereas your protein is going to give them sustained energy for a long period of time. If you cut their carbohydrates, okay, your birds are going to tend to become a little more active. The more protein they have in their diet, the stronger they're going to be on the wing. But for me, 12%, that's all I feed them. And then just cut it from there. One of the things that I've found, just one of those odd little tricks that if you want to spark your birds, and this is so funny because it was given to me by a friend of mine, and I said, that sounds crazy. My birds wouldn't even eat that. And so I said, okay, let me give it a try. I took what is called white millet, okay? And you feed it the white millet to the birds. What you mix with the white millet is Folgers coffee, instant coffee. And what it is, it's caffeine. And you know what people are like on caffeine, they're wired. So you put the white millet and the caffeine or the coffee grounds in there and you feed it to them. And you watch those same birds fly 2-3 days before the competition, you'll be stunned. It's like, holy crap. So that's one of those weird things. I've heard people use Epsom salt. They put it in the water and it cleans out their digestive tract. And to me, that's a little extreme. A lot of these things are kind of extreme for me, but I found that just standard 12% and breaking them down from that point works the best for my thing. Nothing really extreme.
Andrew Loudon's asking, for old bird kits, do you separate the sexes, a hen kit and a cock kit?
As soon as the birds reach what I call sexual maturity, I've found that the cocks tend to drive those hens and they pair up. And the danger in those birds pairing up, and what you find, you heard of the term a pecking order. Well, it comes from birds because birds peck each other. And the bird that's at the top of the pecking order is the boss in that kit. So what happens, there's a pecking order in that kit. Once the birds reach sexual maturity, they all try to pair up and find their mates. But what it does, it changes the pecking order. So when your birds fly, they don't fly according to their pecking order, they fly to find their mates. So it changes the dynamic in the kit. So keeping hens and cocks separate, there are some benefits to it for sure. When you're training your birds, great. There's nothing wrong with flying all together as a mixed group. But I think I've seen some real benefits to flying all hen and all cock groups. Yes.
I see that a lot too. If I have birds that are running around on the ground together,
right,
I'll see them go out in the air. They'll be flying together. It's kind of a pain in the...
I did an experiment in that specific area, and what it was, I had a bird that would fly out of the kit, and it was a cock bird, and it was a really good cock bird, but I noticed he would fly out of the kit And so I took his mate that he had mated up with, and he was flying perfect in the kit. I took her out of the kit. I decided, let me see if I let her out, if he'll drop out of the kit. As soon as I let the bird out, you know what he did? He dropped out of the kit. And they were way up there. He recognized that bird from a long way away, and he dropped out of the kit to follow her. So I'm like, okay, that's proof enough for me. You know, and I did it several times. So there are definitely some benefits to not having mixed groups.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to having that many birds, to have, 2 kids.
So I'm in California, Southern California, sunny Southern California. The crazy thing, we have a VOP problem that is just unreal. To give you an example, there's a guy out here, Will Stenhouse, and I think Will Stenhouse flies anywhere from 10 to 12 kits. And I mean,
he had a video where they were hitting him while he was on the video talking.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I've never seen falcons like what he has at his house. I mean, falcons, they're birds of prey. They have to eat every day, and they attack our birds. Yes, at his house, it's a whole different story. They're just vicious. They don't attack his birds to eat. They attack his birds to destroy them. They literally hit them, tear them up, and then fly off, and then come back, hit them again, tear them. They're not hungry. That's crazy. Yeah, I've watched it. At my house, they hit my birds, they eat them, and they go. There, it's just like, we're just going to destroy everything that's in your kit.
I'm not going to say how many times I've been hit. But,
yeah.
Both times they flew away.
Wow. Yeah. Over here, they don't fly away. And if they do, your birds are with them.
No, they took them with.
Oh, yeah.
I've been hit by the birds a lot, but both times they got birds.
Yeah. If I fly 30 days straight with a kit of 20 birds, there's no birds left.
Yeah, and you guys are on some next level stuff with the birds of prey in California. I mean, I follow the roller pages and stuff, and guys in Wisconsin, and different parts of the country. It's nothing like what you guys are dealing with out there. It's insane.
Yeah, I judged a fly for one of the local clubs here, and I think they had 10 flyers, and out of 10 flyers, 10 flyers got hit that day. Not a single one of them did not get hit. Everyone got hit. And
did any of them score?
Yeah, they still scored, but I mean, they'll call it time. Hey, yeah, it's sad. You're watching these birds fly, they're performing, all of a sudden, boom, and call time. They have to. They hope the birds regroup, and we continue judging with the largest group sometimes. Depending on what the flyer is doing, but it sucks. The peregrine falcon is amazing to watch. I just wish he wasn't eating my birds. The goshawk, which is very different. That's something that's kind of a new phenomenon out here. This bird looks very reminiscent of a Cooper hawk. It's a lot darker, and it has a different type head. It has beady red eyes. I mean, literally red, crimson red eyes. And what it does, Cooper hawk will dive on your kit 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. The goshawk will dive on the kit one time, and as soon as one bird darts out of the kit, it will chase that bird to exhaustion and kill it. It doesn't chase the rest of the birds. It won't come back to dive on the kit. It's going to follow that one bird every turn it makes. And it doesn't follow close. But what it does, it just waits till it gets tired. And then it's going to go into a tree. As soon as it goes into a tree, it's done. It's gone. Yeah, that's one that every time he comes to eat, he gets a meal.
So for the big question here, we talked about judging a bird standing in a cage.
Right.
So can you explain how you judge these different teams that are flying, and what constitutes a waterfall compared to like a point score, and the different number of kits that are flying? And I know it's a lot in there, but
so out here we use the NDRC rules as far as judging. So it's really not my judgment. It's the rule. The birds have to roll a minimum of 10 feet. Okay. If they don't roll 10 feet, they're not scoreable depth. The bird needs to.
How do you know they rolled 10 feet?
How do I know they rolled 10 feet? I actually, believe it or not, I actually took out a tape measure one time at a competition, and I knew what 10 feet was. I mean, my background is in construction, so I can eyeball something pretty easy. And I measured a wall next to one of the guy's house to show him where 10 feet was. And then I asked the group, so look at that wall right there and look at the top of the roof. Which one is 10 feet? 3/4 of the people didn't know what 10 feet was. They were wrong.
Okay.
They were like, well, from the top of there to there is 10 feet. I'm like, no, that's not. It's actually a lot deeper. So a lot of people think 10 feet is a really stretch. It's not. It's a very short distance. For me, very easy to judge. But you have to know that when you look at 10 feet on the ground versus 10 feet up there, it's a very short distance. The distance changes. It actually shrinks because we're looking at it at a distance. So a lot of times what a judge will look at and say, oh, it didn't roll 10 feet. It actually did roll 10 feet, you know? So you have to understand that concept.
Yeah, if they're 200-300 foot in the air, they can seem like they're not coming down much at all.
Exactly, and they actually are. You're asking about waterfall, what constitutes a waterfall. So you've got a kit of 20 birds. When those birds break all together, that's a full break, which, I mean, I've seen it. It's an amazing thing to watch.
Hitting the wall.
When they hit the wall. Matter of fact, I was at Will Stenhouse's place, and I watched a kit of birds, and it almost looked, if you've ever seen somebody when they flinch, you know, and you catch them like, oh, you startled them. That's exactly what it looks like. The birds are flying, and literally they flinched, and it was like, bang, everybody went at the same time. And it was stunning.
It's like the fainting goats.
Exactly. That's perfect analogy. That's exactly what it looks like, the fainting goats. They're running, everything's fine. All of a sudden, boom, everybody fainted.
Shit, you scared me.
Yes. There's another gentleman by the name of Mike Ayala that lives way up in the desert. And we were on a fly at his house. He actually DQ'd that day, but his birds were doing really, really well. He let out, I would say, probably 5 kits. And I mean, we were watching birds break, 50 birds at a time, dropping 30 to 40 feet plus. 50 at a time. It was stunning. Just a guy with some amazing birds. I've seen the same type of thing at Abel Ibarra's house, at Marshall Duncan's house, Arturo Sanchez. Those are local guys here. Matter of fact, Arturo Sanchez won the Royal Rumble. Another guy with some amazing birds, great quality. And I've also seen it in the high desert. I mean, there's tons of guys down here with, great quality birds. Back to judging. The birds also have to execute the role correctly. So you've got 20 birds flying there, and you've got, say, a group of 5 birds. Well, in those 5 birds, if one of those birds rolls and then pops out of the roll and heads the other direction, okay, that's not scoreable. If the birds roll and don't execute the roll correctly, if it's sloppy or it has to be scoreable roll. It has to be quality roll. If it's just flipping, no, that doesn't count.
If I've got a 5-bird break,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my birds is a 50-60 footer, it's not scoreable.
Now that 50, so if that bird rolls and he broke at the same time, and those birds roll over 10 feet, and that bird kept going, yes, that's still scoreable. That is still,
okay.
Yeah, if they all went 10 feet and that one just kept going, oh no, you're still good.
So is he going to get more points because of a deeper roll on that one?
Now, no, you're not going to get more points for that. But if all the birds rolled and they rolled deeper and they all broke together and was still a good roll, yeah, what you're going to get quality points. There's depth and quality. So yeah, your depth and quality points will increase if your birds, compared to somebody else's birds that were, say, they were all 10 footers, they were great, but nothing rolled more than 10 feet. And I went to your house and I judged your birds on the same day, and your birds were 30 feet, but with extreme velocity. They exited, they had a great snap. They entered the roll and exited the roll exactly the same. Yeah, you're going to get more quality depth points because of it. So the multiplier is what's going to change. So you may all have the exact same score. Say you scored 100 points, but your quality depth was a 1.5 and the other guy was a 2.0. You're going to have a higher score.
So what's the key to getting points? Is it about just consistency every time you want birds breaking a whole bunch of times at the 20 feet? Is that how you get them high points?
As far as big breaks. So if you have, just to give you an example, you'd say you have 5 breaks, right? Okay. But it was 20. You're at 100 points. Well, the multiplier changes now. You're going to get a higher score based on the fact that you had 1 2, 3, 4, 5 20 bird breaks. So having big breaks is going to drive your score. Having multiple breaks is going to drive your score. Having better quality birds is going to drive your score. So there are multiple things that can drive your score. You take your raw score with the multiplier. Now, if your birds did extremely fast, they were extremely deep, and you had tons of breaks, yeah, your score is going to be in the clouds. Well, let me just regress a little bit. The original Birmingham rollers, let's go back to those. Great birds. We've evolved to what we currently have today, right? They came out of those birds, but we have a different bird. And the reason we have a different bird, today, a lot of the guys are breeding birds with more frequency. Before, we only dealt with raw score. There was no multiplier. So birds were dealt or are scored on individual basis, on depth, not necessarily the whole group. You know what I'm saying? It was mostly individuals and raw score. What the change made was that the birds are now judged on frequency more than anything. If you look at the scores of yesteryear versus the scores of today, they're far higher in the roller hobby. Which, is that a bad thing? That's debatable, you know? It's debatable. Because
when did they change?
You know what? I mean, from when I started raising pigeons when I was 10 years old, you know, to today, I can tell you exactly when it changed, but the guys that are older than me, yeah, they worked on a completely different system of rules. It was completely different than what we do today. So it's probably been, 50 years. So Penson said that the way we were going would ruin the hobby. I don't think it's ruined the hobby. I think it has changed the hobby, because I think the focus is more on frequency than it is on quality with a lot of people in the hobby, because frequency is going to give you the score, you know? So if that's your thing, yes, you have guys that sometimes they may score really high, but their quality really isn't as good as a guy that didn't score that high, but his quality is night and day, you know? So it really depends on what you're chasing. A lot of the roller guys will chase frequency, but then I've seen guys that have extraordinary quality and they have the frequency. So one of the things that's happening in the Birmingham hobby is guys are adding Mason. So George Mason in England is an amazing competitor, and his birds, I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think the Mason birds have had the greatest impact on birds in the United States since the importation of the Birmingham roller by Penson himself. Oh. They've had that huge of an impact. In Southern California, I can definitely say they've had, I would say, if I was to gauge it from, you know, a 50% to 40% impact on the hobby, I'd say it's about 90% impact on the hobby. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, I have Mason birds. If you look at the South African birds, they're based in the Mason family. So not just in the United States, I mean, all over. And I think it's positive. It's a positive impact. George Mason, like I said, has had a profound impact on this hobby. I couldn't give you a handful of guys that don't have Mason birds crossing their birds. And guys that don't are currently crossing the birds into them. You know, they're actively seeking birds that are Masons to cross into because of their frequency. And the guys that have done it have had great success with it.
So if somebody has just picked up some Birmingham rollers that got themselves a little kit and they're flying, how would they get to a level where they could start competing? Is that something where, you know, you join the National Birmingham Roller Club, and or do you find a local club, or how do you get a judge out to your property to judge you and to get to that level of competing?
So what you're going to do, obviously you join the NBRC or one of your local organizations, and from there the NBRC sponsors the flies. Now your local clubs, once you've joined those local clubs, you've gotten a family. One of the things that I would suggest is, rather than just buy a family, you need to buy a family and you need to have a mentorship with them, because understanding that family is going to get you where you want to go. Just opening the door and letting those birds out and throwing some corn in there is not going to do it for them. It's not going to happen. If that's the case, everybody would do it. We'd all be, you know, champions today. It doesn't work that way. Get yourself a mentorship. Don't just buy a family. And you got to put in the time. You got to put in the work with these birds. And if you don't, you're not going to get the results. Just paying for some expensive birds and opening the door is not going to do it. Once you've gotten your birds to perform, you're in a club, they have the kit competitions. if you end up as the qualifier for your region, you can fly in the World Cup, you can fly in the Nationals. There's tons of opportunities for you to showcase your birds, but you have to prove yourself in your local club first. But
solid advice. I've been lucky enough to have a good relationship with the guy that I got my first rollers from.
Yeah, and same here.
It's turned out great.
You have to have a mentorship, and because each family is different, it has its little quirks, and if you don't understand those quirks, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to waste time and you're going to get frustrated, but it's best to have a mentorship. Get somebody that understands and knows them. So
the two different lines that I got the Turner line from Gary up north. I talk to both the guys, Alan and Gary, all the time about their birds and how they're doing. And Gary's basically been flying the same amount of time as I've been flying mine. So we're learning together. But Alan's are completely different style. I can see that in the kit for sure.
Right. I was fortunate enough to be able to go out to Alan Weaver's house and watch his birds fly. It was during the NBRC convention, and he had some super fast birds up there. I mean, I love the speed on his birds, and he has all those models. I love models, so he's got those solid with the black ticking and the modeling in them. Beautiful.
That model that I showed you.
Was that one of his?
You've seen that bird before. It's on his bands.
Okay, and it's funny because I actually have two models that look like that, and there's a bird on the band like that. That's so funny.
Yeah.
And they actually came from him.
Yeah, that's one of his oldest pair.
Wow.
And yeah, it's very cool.
The ones I have.
Absolutely, and I keep her close by. That's really cool.
That is very cool.
Well, before we forget, I almost missed one of the comments. What is it? Ricky Gonzalez is asking if you're going to be at the VFRC lawn show coming up here.
Who is that? Ricky who?
Yeah, am I saying it? I might be saying it wrong here. Let me look at it.
I don't know that.
Yeah, Ricky Gonzalez. I've heard that name somewhere. I can't put a face.
I will definitely be at the VFRC fly. I will be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Chris will be turning some of his birds out too, I think.
I got some VFRC questions here. Hang on. Let's see. Mr. Chicone would like to know.
Okay.
Or if you're the founder of the club and you're from the club, when are you paying your dues? What's his question?
That's a great point. So this is the thing. As the founding member of the club, I'm exempt.
Nice.
I'm exempt.
It's written in there, guys.
Yes, I donate my expertise to all club members free of charge, so that makes me exempt.
Nice. There you go.
Awesome.
VFRC is a really amazing club in that those guys literally started from scratch out there and have just really produced some amazing birds. For me, the name VFRC, what it stands for is Velocity First Roller Club. And for me, that is one of the things that I don't compromise on is velocity. If the birds don't have velocity, I'm not interested. You can have great rollers, you can have great frequency, but if they don't have velocity, if it doesn't spin with great velocity, I'm just not interested in it. And those guys uphold those principles. I couldn't ask for a better group of guys to represent me.
Are you going out on the flies too, or are you just coming to the show?
No, I'll go out on the flies too. I love to see the birds fly.
I think you might be coming to my house.
Oh, really? Awesome. I'll also be at the AARC show in Sacramento. I'll be judging that show. So hopefully everybody comes out to the AARC show, and I'd love to meet all you guys. So
when is the AARC show in Sacramento?
It is April 20th at George's Feed in Sacramento.
Okay, so it's the week after.
Yeah, you're gonna go from one to the other there.
Yes, cool. I am.
You gonna come pick me up, Phil?
I will. Come on, let's go.
Yeah. Just have Smitty give you a ride, man. He's gonna be right there. Just pick you up, take a week off.
I'm driving from SoCal to Sacramento, so
I think I'm supposed to be at a dinner at your house that day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Just want to say thanks for coming on, and thanks for answering all these questions we hit you.
Well, hey, it was my pleasure joining you guys. And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Yeah, well, we'll see you at the VFRC, Smitty.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Smitty. So there you go, Sam Smitty, the one and only, giving us all kinds of tips how to win those high points on your rollerbirds.
There was a lot of interesting stuff there.
I don't fly rollers competitively. My son had them for a while just for the fun of it, and it's always been kind of a mystery to me how those guys can watch those birds like that and know the depth of how many are popping off at the same time, because it happens so fast. You watch these videos, these documentaries on roller pigeons, it's all in slow motion, looks awesome, but that's not how it's going down. It's going down fast. They're constantly breaking. You got to do it a few times to get good at it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, got to have them 5-bird breaks.
That's right.
And the 20-bird breaks.
I like that. I never heard that when you mentioned that about it's like them hitting a wall. That's a good metaphor.
That's what it's called.
That was recommended by listener Austin Hermanson, and that's a good one. He wanted to bring on a roller judge and talk about that, so that was really good. We appreciate that. Check out Smitty's YouTube page. He's got a good YouTube page called The Roller Revolution. I've checked out a few of those episodes. My son was really into watching them when he had the rollers, and he goes into everything. He talks about breeding and stuff. He's had some pretty cool ones on how to make some DIY feeders and waterers and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So don't forget to check that out. Also, you guys have any more questions or people that you want to have us bring on, let us know. Hit us up at our email, allaboutpigeonspodcast@gmail. Hit us up on our Facebook Messenger. However you want to do it, there's ways to get in touch with us. Just let us know what you want to hear, and don't forget to send any unwanted pigeons to Maker Chris.
Hard pass.
He's got some empty lofts over there, guys. Fill his lofts and fill his heart. He takes them all. He especially likes the ones that can turn their heads all the way around. That's kind of a favorite for him. He's got a collection.
You're the best. Hard pass.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.